Yeah, I mean, certainly disappointing when you go back and look at it and you leave, you feel like you leave one out there. Bottom line is this, you can't spot a good team points, can't give things to them. And, at the end of the day, we've got to get ourselves in position to capture momentum and not have to respond, and we responded well to some of these events that happened, but you can't put yourself in those positions. We've had plenty of opportunities, even with all that, which I think, there's some positive in that. But defensively, in the second half, we put them in a really bad spot, but we had a couple opportunities where, we got it to a 5-point game on a couple different drives and couldn't get a stop, couldn't get off the field. Didn't tackle well enough, and certainly didn't knock back tackle well enough. And then, offensively, feel like you executed pretty well, but you can never give up points on offense. And, that ends up being the difference in the game. So for us, it's a lot of things to take from that tape that, you got to go look in the mirror and, asked everyone, myself included, to, look in the mirror and we got to figure out what we can do a little bit better for our team so that we don't end up in those situations. And that's what we're going to do this week. So we're looking forward to bouncing back. We're looking forward to going to play a good Wake Forest team. It's another challenge that we're going to have to play really well. Certainly going to have to, to win this game, we can't beat ourselves. And that's just kind of what it comes down to. And, if we do a better job of playing smart football last week and playing the way we're supposed to, then we're probably in a little bit different situation this week. But before conference, you get an opportunity to learn from that. We need to hit our stride, going into conference, and this is the last one before we get to it. So we got to get these things corrected, and we got to get back on track and get back in the win column.
My biggest concern just in handicapping the game was who they had played and you had played. Is there anything to get into that level of play, higher level of play, and being used to that and being able to handle it? Did you see, after watching the film, could that have had anything to do with it?
I think part of it might have been a little bit overexcitement early. On defense, we had a couple of busts early that didn't cost us, touchdowns, but in the first couple drives, just some things where we just weren't kind of on the same page, and got to figure maybe that has a little bit to do with it. But at the end of the day, it's football, and you got to control those emotions. And we talk about it a lot. Emotion is a great tool when you harness it and use it. But it's a terrible master. When your emotions control you, it's not much good's going to come from that. So, I love the emotion that our team has, and I love the energy, and I love the excitement that we have. But at the end of the day, we've got to find a way to harness it, and use it for good. And, maybe that was a little bit of it. But I don't think it had anything to do with it once the game really got going, and the mistakes that we made were easy to clean up. But things we got to clean up. You can't do those things.
What's the update on Casey?
We don't know right now. He didn't practice yesterday, so he's gonna see the doctor and everything today. Certainly we're hopeful he'll be back. I'd say he's probably doubtful for this week, just with the nature of it. But we'll get some more information. Hopefully, by the next time I meet with you guys on Wednesday. Quentin's out. Quentin's probably going to be out for the year. Jax is going to start working back into it this week. Don't know if he'll be available this week. I think if it's close, I think we're going to keep him out, for conference. But he's close, and he's feeling good and he's getting back to it.
They looked at the intentional grounding the other day. I guess my question is, what's the difference between you having to challenge versus asking for a review? Because it sounded like they weren't going to charge him a challenge if it was not overturned. I know it's on their side, but what is that process like?
Yeah, it's a good question. I didn't know that they would review a potential grounding call. I didn't know I knew it's a reviewable play, but I don't think that John and Tulane, I don't think they asked for it to be reviewed. So, we had one against Kennesaw. I thought we picked it. So I had to call a timeout and ask for a review, which they reviewed, said it hit the ground or whatever. So that's, when you ask for one, if you don't get it, they charge you a timeout. Scoring plays, they always review, right? Every play that scores or that's close. I didn't know grounding was something that they would just review. I know turnovers typically they do and things like that, but I don't know what that process was. We threw it away. They called it incomplete, and they came back and said, we're going to review it for intentional grounding. So that's kind of what I got. And, the ball didn't make it past the line of scrimmage. It was the correct call. And then we had opportunities we should have got rid of it a little bit earlier, kind of held on to it, kind of waiting for something else instead of taking what we had. And it ended up, getting us behind the sticks a little bit. Fortunately, I think we were able to come back from the first one. The second one, we had some pressure. He had to get rid of the ball. I don't think he had a whole lot of other options. But I felt like there was maybe a penalty on them in that play as well that could have gotten, us back to, a replay the down. But, that's kind of what happened on those two.
Wake Forest, two things jump out to me just at a first glance at their stats. They give up a lot of yards and they get a lot of yards. They don't get a lot of third down conversions, and neither do their opponents. Like, what do you see on? What do you see on?
Well, to go to third, I'll jump straight to third downs here. And I haven't studied their offense on third downs, but defensively, it comes down to these things pretty routinely. Their teams are 2 for 16 against them on 7+. So we need not get 7+. Short yardage, and from 1 to 6, it's about normal, maybe a little bit better than average. But once you get to 7+, you're not getting it. I think they do a good job. They've got some good pressure packages, but I think they do an excellent job on the back end of they make you check it down, they rally, and they tackle. So you come up short, and you got to decide if you want to go for it on fourth. So I think they've got a really good plan for their third and long stuff, and you got to avoid that. You got to be in manageable downs. I think for us offensively to have a chance to convert. Their offense, it's really unique. Whenever you watch them play, they have like these really slow meshes that they do. They're huge up front, and they get shoulder to shoulder, and they kind of just try to slow combo it up to the backers, and they kind of wait till the backers trigger to come off to kind of keep them from going downfield on the RPOs. If your backers trigger fast, they're going to try to throw the RPO behind it. So they've got a unique offensive system, and obviously we're trying to do a bunch of research and trying to study and figure out our best way to attack it. But I think they're really big up front. They've got a good running back. Number one is really shifty. He's got a lot of speed, and then they've got like a short yardage back they bring in there. That's kind of a hammer. And then they've got some good wideouts out there too. They got a really good player in the slot. I think it's I don't have it with me. I think it's number 2. I can't remember, but they have a really good little slot receiver, and they've got 2 tall guys on the outside they'll stretch the field with. So they've got some weapons, veteran quarterback, not in their system, but played a lot. So I think, they've got a good plan on offense and what they're trying to do, and it's unique. Defensively, they played some pretty good teams. Ole Miss, I think that kind of speaks for itself. In Virginia, I thought played really well against them. They made some plays. NCA&T had a really good plan. They got a good back that ran well against them. So, we got to sit down and kind of figure out what's our best way to attack it. We need to get back to being more efficient in the throw game than we were last week. And I think a lot of that was them. There was some pressure, and we had to get rid of the ball sometimes whenever we'd like to have been able to progress through it. But we got to get back to being able to throw it a little bit more efficiently than we were Saturday. And certainly we got to find a way to continue to manufacture, run game. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that the last few weeks. But, against these guys, they've got a good front. We're going to have to do a good job, make sure we can get the pieces where we want to try to, fabricate some offense. Because I think we're going to have to sustain some drives offensively to be able to keep our defense off the field a little bit. It's no secret they're going to watch the tape last week, and I think they're built pretty similar to Tulane. To be honest with you, they're going to say, "Well, we're going to try to mash them right here, and we're going to try to challenge them. And we're going to try to run the ball down their throats." That's what you got to be saying if you're watching the tape. So we're going to have to accept that challenge. We're going to have to play well on defense, but offensively we can help them too.
Just wait, especially offensively. Did they remind you of anybody you played the last couple of years, or did that unique?
This mesh deal that they do is really unique. The quarterback will ride it all the way up behind the line of scrimmage, and he'll throw it from 2 yards behind the O-line. Which seems crazy, but it works for him. It's a very unique thing. And they're gonna the RPOs or throws are similar to a lot of other people, but just the way that they do it, it's like they're kind of like almost it's like they're almost kind of teasing your linebackers, like to pull the trigger so they can try to throw it over you. So it's the big thing is you got to try to knock the line of scrimmage back, which is not easy because they're big and they're going to get these double teams in place. You got to try to knock it back in his lap a little bit, I think, up front, so that your linebackers can kind of hold a little bit. So, it'll be I think it'll be tough to duplicate in practice too, to be honest with you. So, we got to try to do the best job we can to give our defense that look. But they've got good pieces out there too. Like I said, they've got 2 outside receivers that can go, and then they've got a slot that works it pretty good in there. So, it's a unique offense with good players.
If Casey can't go, like what have you seen from the guys behind him? Where are you there, and do you need to shift anything around to accommodate for that situation?
Well, Cormac has played really well. He's played really good for us. So that's a no-brainer. There he's going to stay in there. Really, the other 3 guys. Terrence Williams, Cabote, and Caleb Edwards. Those are the 3 guys that they're going to be competing this week to see who's the guy if he can't go. All 4 of them are going to play, but we got to figure out who's going to go out there and play the most consistently for us. Because when KC was out last week, I'm not going to get into names. It wasn't good enough. The guys that played in his place, they didn't play good enough. So those guys are capable. They've done it. Didn't play very well on Saturday. Got to play better. And so, we talked as a staff, and our defensive staff, we're going to challenge them. They need to go compete their tail off to see who's going to go out there and go take his place if he can't go, because that's obviously a big void. He's a great player, but even more so, his presence out there on that field is something that we're going to miss. So, if he can't go, those 3 guys, they're going to have to battle and compete and scratch and claw to figure out who's going to be the guy this week. And, they'll all get a chance. So as the game goes, whoever's playing better, obviously you're going to stay with it. But, that'll be a lot of competition. There'll be a lot of competition there this week.
But does the communication leadership thing have to change if Casey's not there? Or whoever wins that job takes over that role?
Well, that's something we're going to have to kind of figure out. Cabote's a really good communicator. If it's him, that's kind of easy. It's just let him communicate it. Carmichael's more than capable, though. He just hasn't because he's right next to KC. But, Carmichael could absolutely do it if we needed to. If we felt like it was, maybe Terrence, who's still a little bit new to it, or Caleb, who, is maybe not quite on the same level as far as the communication goes. We could always switch it over to Carmichael. And do it that way. But, we'll just have to kind of figure that out before the game and who we think the best one to be the signal caller is.